So I welcome everybody to today's November 4th, 2021 Rotary Luncheon of the Rotary Club of New York, Coast Club of America, so named by Paul Harris. We are very delighted to have a high-level speaker here today, Ulrick Gaillard, founder and CEO of Batey Relief Alliance. He will be speaking a little bit after the introduction by our President Gerard Triffin. And of course, firstly, we'll have the Star Spangled Banner by Audrey Levine. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Audrey. Once again, I welcome everybody to today's meeting. It is now with the utmost pleasure that I introduce to you our President, Gerard Triffin.
Thank you, Andreas, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's now noon. And welcome to those of you who are signing in from our sister clubs around the world, or who will see us later on YouTube and watch the video recording of today's broadcast. We're fortunate we have a very interesting guest today, an illustrious guest, Ulrick Gaillard, who is the founder, president, and CEO of the Batey Relief Alliance, which he founded in 1997. It's an NGO now with ECOSOC at the United Nations. And it's a nonprofit competitive NGO that has done a lot of work in developing, solving, dealing with social issues and health issues and economic issues in Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Peru. In 2003, Dr. Ulrick, Mr. Gaillard, pardon me, was quite proud to have set up the first modern medical facilities in the sugar plantations in Dominican Republic. In 2014, as I mentioned earlier, he was given NGO status at the United Nations, the organization was, and he, in 2018, set up the first Women's Empowerment Initiative aimed to develop women in areas of agriculture and community economic growth areas. So I'd like to have, if you don't mind, Dr. Gaillard, I'd like to, excuse me, Mr. Gaillard, I would like you to have to address that issue and tell us what kind of progress you've made with that. He is also, the organization is all, he is, and the organization, the recipient of the Rotary International's Paul Harris Humanitarian Award. And as I learned this morning, Ulrick Gaillard is a former member of Rotary Club in New York, so we're looking forward to welcoming him back. So let me stop here because there is a long list of things that he has accomplished. And Ulrick, good morning and welcome. The floor is yours. Good afternoon, rather. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to present at the Rotary Club of New York's weekly meeting. As a former member myself, it is great to be back, and it is my honor to talk to you about the work of the Batey Relief Alliance here in the United States, as well as in Latin America and the Caribbean, particularly in Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Peru. But given the current state of affairs developing in Haiti, a country that shares the island Hispaniola with the Dominican Republic, I thought it would be appropriate to focus my presentation on the work we've been doing on both sides of the island since 1997 to improve conditions of women, children, and families severely affected by extreme poverty, disease, and hunger. within the vulnerable sugarcane plantation rural communities known as Batey and border regions. It has been said that the Dominican Republic and Haiti represent two wings of a bird, referring to Hispaniola as the bird. And without one wing, that bird cannot fly. That expression is primarily derived from the standpoints of migration, security, politics, and economics. And any consequential situation on one side could potentially affect the other or the island as a whole. In 1804, Haiti rose to become the world's first Black republic after a bloody slave revolution that defeated the French colonial empire, challenged the world order built then on colonialism, and ended slavery. For decades, European powers and later the United States refused to recognize Haiti as an independent republic. Haiti simply represented a real threat to economic interests, one that had to be contained. In 1825, France forced the newly created country to pay 100 million francs, approximately $21 billion today, in order to recognize its former colony's freedom. That hefty indemnity since then has been a source of debate over its legitimacy and, as a consequence, a right for reparation. And considered the potomitan, a term in Haitian Creole meaning in English, the central pole for the continuing socioeconomic and political deterioration and degradation of Haiti. According to experts, it took Haitians more than a century to pay off the debt to its former slave owners and lenders, including the City Bank of New York. Marlene Doubt, a professor at the University of Virginia specializing in pre-20th century French colonial literary and historical studies, said, by forcing Haiti to pay for its freedom, France essentially ensured that the Haitian people would continue to suffer the economic effects of slavery for generations to come. Essentially, the treasury of the Haitian government that was supposed to be made available to build infrastructures and prepare the country's economy to grow, compete, and prosper was wiped out, leaving the fragile nation and its population in a financial hole that is still haunting it today. Out of fear of another European invasion, occupation, and re-enslavement of the newly established territory, and to protect itself, from 1822 to 1844, Haiti invaded and occupied the Spanish side of the island, then called Santo Domingo, and now, and today, the Dominican Republic. That period of Haiti's history, however, would until today cause frictions and a sense of distrust between the two societies. Indeed, Haiti has never recuperated from the severe economic assaults inflicted upon it by France and its allies. From international economic embargoes and invasions, natural disasters to foreign-imposed dictators and corrupt politicians, Haiti, as compared to the Dominican Republic, remains today practically isolated from the rest of the globalized world. The country's GDP remains extremely low at $1,149.50 per capita, and nearly 60% of Haitians currently live in poverty. With a population of over 11 million, Haiti is considered the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. According to the United Nations Development Program, 24.7% of Haitians live in extreme poverty, which is less than $1.25 per day. Even more, approximately 59% of Haitians live on less than $2 a day. However, the rate of extreme poverty started to decline since 2000. In 2015, the gross domestic product in Haiti was estimated to be $18.54 billion, ranked 146 out of 230 countries in the world. Although the GDP growth in Haiti is among the fastest in the region, it has not been sufficient enough to significantly reduce poverty rates, Haiti ranks 59.5 in the Gini coefficients index, with the richest 10% of Haitians receiving 47.83% of the nation's income, while the poorest 10% receiving less than 0.9%. This data coincide with the World Bank report that says 60% of the country lives in poverty, and the richest 20% of the population holds more than 64% of its income. A 2010 LA Times article published these headlines: Haiti's elite holds nation's future in their hands. Certainly, various sectors inside and outside the country have blamed that special group for its complete ignorance of the masses' plight and the continuing deterioration of the country, while it controls most of its political and economic wealth. Others have even accused them of holding the country hostage for their personal economic interests and those of their close friends and families, and creating a hostile environment for others to invest, including the wealthy and highly skilled and politically connected Haitian diaspora.
We're hoping for Ulrick to come back quickly. He is currently in the Dominican Republic, so we were aware that we could have the one or other dropout. Ulrick, can you hear us? I think we did lose him there for a moment. Well, let's wait until he comes back in. President Gaillard, do you want to entertain us in the meantime?
I let my my union contract, my union membership lapse for entertainment. But in any event,
He's
just
back,
a few
by the
announcements.
way, anyway.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, good. I'll hold my comments till later. Ulrich, glad that you're back with us. Maybe not yet.
Yeah, no, he's back. Ulrick, can you hear us now? Go ahead. You might be on mute. Just unmute yourself, but we have your feedback. We have no audio for you.
While we're waiting, I'll mention that all of our members in the next few weeks will be getting the new edition of Rotary Club of New York's 2021 directory. So we'll have you know, a list of all.
I am here now.
Oh, good. Thank you. Glad you're back with us.
All right. According to a 2020 investment climate statements produced by the U.S. State Department on Haiti, the country is considered one of the most urbanized nations in Latin America and the Caribbean region, and occupies the western third of Hispaniola. Despite the Haitian government's efforts to achieve macroeconomic stability and sustainable private sector-led and market-based economic growth, Haiti still faces many challenges, such as political instability, a depreciating national currency, which is the Haitian goud, persistent inflation, and high unemployment at 14.5% in 2020. The report added that the global outbreak of the coronavirus further complicated the Haitian government's capacity to achieve macroeconomic stability, and that the country's foreign direct investment, FDI, inflows reached only $75 million in 2019, lower than its average prior levels around $100 million annually, and the unusually high $375 million in 2017. Again, despite favorable policies towards FDI, Haiti's rates inflow reflects a recessionary economy in 2019 and a challenging political environment. Meanwhile, the FDI in the Dominican Republic comparatively averaged $636.12 million from 2010 until 2021, reaching an all-time high of $1,658.80 million in the fourth quarter of 2017, and a record low of $120.50 million in the fourth quarter of 2012. The economy of Haiti is a free market economy with low labor costs. According to the British newspapers, The Economist, its major trading partner is the United States, accounting for over 80% of total exports. Other countries include the Dominican Republic and the Netherlands and Antilles. Haiti also has an agricultural economy. Over half of the world's vetiver oil, an essential oil used in high-end perfumes around the world, comes from Haiti. Bananas, cocoa, and mangoes are also important export crops. Haiti, however, has moved to expand to higher-end manufacturing, producing Android-based tablets and current sensors and transformers. Recent statistics show that in 2017, Haiti exports reached $960.1 million, while its export reached $3.6 billion in refined petroleum, rice, palm oil, and poultry meat. The studies added that vulnerability to natural disasters, as well as poverty and limited access to education, are among Haiti's most serious disadvantages. 2/5 of all Haitians depend on the agricultural sector, mainly small-scale subsistence farming, and remain vulnerable to damage from frequent natural disasters exacerbated by the country's widespread deforestation. Haiti also suffers from a severe trade deficit, which it is working to address by moving into higher-end manufacturing and more value-added products in the agricultural sector. Remittances are the primary source of foreign exchange in Haiti, equaling nearly 20% of their GDP. Haiti's economy was severely impacted by the 2010 earthquake that claimed the lives of about 300,000 people. The country sadly never recovered, and it has remained mired in economic underdevelopment and insecurity. A cholera outbreak in 2016 linked by the UN peacekeepers killed at least 10,000 Haitians and sickened another 800,000. Then on July 7th, 2021, Jovenel Moise, who became president of Haiti in 2017, was assassinated. 1 month later, on August 14th, the country was hit by a magnitude 7.2 earthquake, killing at least 2,200 people and injuring over 12,000. An estimated 650,000 people have been left without assistance, while 35,500 buildings have been damaged or destroyed. Thereafter, Haiti plunged into complete chaos and disorientation, with deadly kidnappings, gang violence, a deteriorating economy, a disenfranchised and disenchanted populace, and a dysfunctional government. Thousands of desperate Haitian migrants made headlines recently for their long and perilous journeys to reach US borders. Meanwhile, the Dominican Republic remains on high alert to prevent a spill of events over its territory that continues to enjoy billions of dollars in foreign investment. Another period between the two countries worth mentioning is sugar production on the island. Every year since 1933, through bilateral agreements, thousands of seasonal immigrants from Haiti arrived to work the sugar harvest in the Dominican Republic. The industry was highly profitable for the Dominican economy, the private sector, and the international community. The Haitian Duvalier regime also profited in receiving millions of dollars from the Dominican State Sugar Council for each shipment of Haitian cane cutters to the Dominican Republic. The migrants, however, were lodged in rooms within sugar mill settlements known as Batey, sometimes with no facilities, and expected to work cropping sugarcane in long days. They lived a life of extreme poverty and despair. But in the mid-1990s, the Dominican government privatized and capitalized most of its sugar production over tourism, leaving hundreds of thousands of Haitian migrant families and poor Dominicans unemployed and without access to basic health care, proper nutrition, clean drinking water, etc. The situation was alarming and politically polarizing, as resources were extremely limited to improve conditions for the highly vulnerable populations. It was as a result of this crisis within the sugarcane communities that the Batey Relief Alliance came to existence in 1997. Founded in New York, the Batey Relief Alliance addressed socioeconomic and health needs of women, children, and families severely affected by extreme poverty, disease, and hunger within the Batey communities in the Dominican Republic. For a period of 20 years, from 1997 to 2017, BRA developed a holistic model to healthcare, delivering within the Batey communities primary and HIV and specialized services to more than 35,000 patients a year, complemented by access to clean drinking water, HIV testing and counseling, antiretroviral therapy, medicines, nutrition, multivitamins, deworming drugs, and preventive health education. Our objective then was to ensure that each person entering our medical clinics would be fully evaluated and treated so that he or she is physically, mentally, and psychologically fit to learn in school or work to become productive for the family, community, and society. After handing over all of our medical facilities to the Dominican government in 2017 so that it can continue delivering quality health services to health at-risk families, in 2018, BRA launched a new Women's Empowerment Initiative. Using the same holistic approach, aims to provide 5,000 women and girls skills training and microloans, complemented by access to clean drinking water, maternal child health and health and nutrition, preventive health education, and agricultural support needed to achieve gender equality rights, thus enhancing their lives and developing the community. Again, our goal is not merely to providing loans to the women so that they can start new businesses, rather to creating a fully inclusive environment for them to develop in a sustainable way. It is also our effort to help advance the 2030 agenda via the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal number 5, gender equality. But BRA's work covers a wider range of SDGs. Number 1, no poverty. 2, zero hunger. 3, good health and well-being. 6, clean water and sanitation. 8, decent work and economic growth. And 17, partnerships for the goals. Since its inception in 1997, BRA programs benefited more than 2 million people. Over a 14-year period, with the support of the USAID, the PNG Children's Safe Drinking Water Program, and Vitamin Angels, we delivered 100.3 million food rations, 275 million liters of clean drinking water, and millions of doses of multivitamins and anti-worm medicines to help improve maternal child malnutrition among 600,300 people and their families living in communities of the Dominican Republic. Our clean drinking water program initiative also distributed biosand water filters with the support of the Rotary Foundation and built 21 new water systems for the Batey populations. In 2006, BRA built 2 modern health clinics, the first of their kinds in a Batey since the start of sugar production in the country in 1517. In 2009, BRA received a multi-year grant from USDA to help 850 rural women and farmers engage in agricultural production to create food security for 30,000 people. To date, another 475 women have received microloans to engage in agricultural activities and other small business ventures to help them achieve financial independence and to fight household violence. But one of our greatest achievements was not in social service delivery per se, rather about the normalization of the word Batey within the Dominican mainstream society. Prior to our collaborative work in the country, the topics of the Batey or the conditions of Haitians migrants have been a source for human rights abuse accusations, legal fights at international courts, or countless political maneuverings. The issues have always been considered taboo in the average Dominican households. But over the years, BRA has created a special space through our international conferences where parties from across sectors have come to debate any subjects, including the Bateys. That trust that BRA has enjoyed was due to our unique mode of operation that is inclusive, apolitical, and result-oriented. In 2010, BRA expanded its work into Haiti by signing a collaborative agreement with the country's Ministry of Health to deliver services to vulnerable communities. Our work is carried out through the Haiti Action Network, a group of local and international NGOs created by the Clinton Foundation to collaborate to deliver support to the country's poorest. Some of the programs BRA has carried out in Haiti, mostly in our southeast border regions, include nutrition, primary care, clean water, preventive health education, disaster relief, and women's economic empowerment. Post the deadly quake in 2010, BRA supported 150 women in agriculture with microloans and 800 more with skills training, distributed 14.7 million food rations, delivered 88 million liters of clean drinking water, and provided emergency support to families affected by natural disasters. Currently, 6,000 Haitian families annually receive preventive health education in WASH and COVID-19, and 22 million liters of clean drinking water to fight waterborne infections. BRA is a partner to the Clinton Global Initiative and holds special consultative status of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. I am available to take a few questions, mainly about the work of the Batey Relief Alliance, as I am no expert on Haitian affairs. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Let me just check the chat box. If anybody has a question, either raise your hand or put it into the chat box. Let me ask you this first question, though, Ulrick. How big is BRA? How many people do you have in your organization? Do you have employees? Do you have offices?
Yes, we are on the scale of things. We're probably a medium-sized organization or small organization. We have two board of directors, one operating in the United States to oversee the policy affairs of the organization, and then we have another board of directors in the Dominican Republic to oversee the implementation of projects and programs throughout the Latin America and the Caribbean region. Our staff sometimes is 67, 50, 43, 18, 8. Right now we have a staff of 12 people in the Dominican Republic working.
Okay, and do you have difficulties with crossing the border between DR and Haiti?
We do not have difficulties because we have a relationship with the Dominican government and the Haitian government at the border for many years. They know us, they know our work, and they know also what we've been doing is to support the poor. So of course we have to go through the bureaucracy and get our paperwork ready to go, but we have not had any problem crossing the border.
Okay. Getting back to the issue of Haiti itself, and I know you said you're not an expert on that. I don't know who is at this point. But it would seem to, at least to me, that the number one issue for Haiti is the absolute political instability in the country. I cannot imagine how any progress can be made when the streets are literally controlled by thugs and gangs. And I cannot help but wonder if I know a number of Haitians here from the diaspora here in New York, some of whom I guess would belong to what you call that elite. And, even speaking with them, sometimes it troubles me because they seem to have this attitude of superiority towards other Haitians, even African Americans. And I have to ask, well, where is that coming from? And how in the world can Haiti solve its problems when you have almost like an internal apartheid, it seems?
Well, that's a very good question, really, because what the world has been seeing right now is one added element to the crisis in Haiti is the gang activities, no? And prior to this, if you speak to certain segments of the Haitian population. They'll tell you straight up, one of the Haiti's biggest problem is the elite in Haiti. And as I said in my speech, some have accused them of holding the country hostage. These are folks actually who come from Lebanon, Syria, France, Germany, generations ago. And their families now establish themselves to control all economic aspects of the country, and more recently, the political aspects of the country. And as others have said, even when the diaspora, the Haitian diaspora, wishes to come and enter the politics or enter the economic environment to invest and make a difference, something always happens to derail everything. Now, in regards to the ones that you're talking about, the ones in New York, that sense of superiority, that sense of that attitude actually comes from the fact that prior to the way Haiti is right now, Haiti has never been this way. Haiti has not always been this way. In the 1960s, Haiti used to export professionals across the region, including the United States, Canada, and Africa. Haiti prides itself to be an education-oriented society, even though quantitatively, there are not too many Haitians educated. But quantitatively, those who are educated, they are highly educated. And wherever they go in the world, they thrive. And those in the New York area, and a lot of them are prominent physicians. They are wealthy, they have a lot of money, and you're right, they see themselves a different breed of Black people in the United States. Again, these are individuals who are behaving this way. I would not say it's the attitude of the entire Haitian population, but that's the way they are. And you're right also, as to the fact that when they look at, for example, those who are in Haiti, they probably see the ones who are oppressed, the ones who have nothing are the cause of the problem. But I think many Haitians, including experts, will tell you the degradation of the country has a lot to do also with the international community, has how it views Haiti and the history of Haiti also. So it's a combination of a lot of things. Recently, I was talking to a friend of mine who works and lives in Haiti, and he said to me, Ulrick, there are not enough band-aids right now to fix the wounds of Haiti. Haiti needs an antibiotic that will remove that virus that is destroying its very fabric and start from scratch.
Interesting. Are there still elements of the Duvalier people still in Haiti?
I'm sure there are some leftover of the group that used to enjoy the high life, you know, when the Duvaliers were in power, and they have this nostalgic thought that they would want to live that life again. But Haiti is a new place. Haiti took a different route. I can never see any new government that would want to behave in a similar way with the Duvalier regime, to the Duvalier regime in the 1950s and the 1970s and 80s. That time is gone.
Okay, well, that's a good thing to hear. If anyone has a question, please just jump in. We have a question from Tom, and then David Stillman and Francis. Tom, why don't you ask yours?
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ulrick. Very interesting talk. I have a lot of friends from Haiti, but they won't go back home anymore. They tell me things are so bad that they don't go back home, and they just try to get their mother here and their father here. And that things have gotten much worse, never recouped from the terrible earthquake. I guess that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And but I wanted to tell one little anecdote. There was a Rotary Club was building a well in some village in Haiti, and some Rotary Club from Wisconsin. and they kidnapped the Rotarian, and they were asking like $2 million. But from what I read, the Rotarian was so charming, and he impressed the kidnappers so much that they let him go without collecting the ransom. So I just wanted to pass that off. Yes. So it paid to have a four-way test. He had the four-way test down very good, and they let him go based on his personality. But thank you for your talk.
Oh, sure, definitely. When I was born in Haiti and when I left Haiti, it was many years ago, more than 40-something years ago, and I went back a few times for business reasons, and but it's a country that I do not know anymore, because when I left, I was a kid, you know, and I never went back. I don't have any families in Haiti, so therefore it's a foreign country to me. But yep. I know people who are working in Haiti, who've lived in Haiti, who are still living in Haiti, and they told me, Ulrick, you know, they've never seen the country reach so low since the Jovenel Moïse government. They thought it was bad during the prior government, but with the guy who was assassinated this year, it was rock bottom, really. So, and I spoke to somebody recently who managed a hospital in Haiti. She said to me, Ulrick, the worst is yet to come in Haiti. And I said, oh my God, you not know really what's going to happen in Haiti. It's a very complex place. And I always tell folks, you know, you cannot understand Haiti without going back to its history. You cannot look at the place in a vacuum. It's a very special place in the world. It has its special place in the history of the world. It has contributed a lot to the world, but yet it is being treated the way it is. It's a very sad thing to see. It's the only country in the region going through this problem. It's not like there are a lot of Haitian mines. You know, they go to France, they go to Europe, they go to Canada, they go to the United States, and do better there. There's a brain drain that has been going on in Haiti for decades. The country is desperate right now. And I could not think a situation of Haiti where it should not be an influx of foreign investments in the country. Without that, nothing is going to happen. Now, as you just said, one of you just said to me, without a stable political environment, that will not happen. And I agree with that. Haiti needs to look at its political environment. What's causing this retardation as compared to other countries in the region? And something has to happen. And it has to happen quickly.
David Stillman, good afternoon. You have a question?
Hello there.
David, how are you? Nice
It is so good to see you, Ulrick.
Me too.
Wow. We've known each other for a few years.
Indeed.
And the Public-Private Alliance Foundation that I head has worked in the Dominican Republic. And now its focus is especially on Haiti. Mm-hmm. And the work that we're doing with other collaborators, Haitian and American, is on what you might call self-reliance, solar cooking and biodigesters for biogas and garden fertilizer. And we are supporting the first ever university course at the Université Notre-Dame d'Haïti at Hanch. Mm-hmm. And we are also involved with a community group in Jacmel and in Côte de Fer. So I'm happy to say that we're some distance from Port-au-Prince.
That's right.
These days. But you know, with the current situation in Port-au-Prince and the choking of petroleum imports, it really has an effect all over the country, and people are scared all over.
Definitely.
But we are indeed active, and I, as you know, Public-Private Alliance Foundation is a small organization, sort of research and development, and volunteer activities. You've been doing some great work. It was such a pleasure to hear the numbers that you were able to report of the work by BRA in these past 2 decades now. And I just wonder if we might be able to introduce now the idea and carry it further privately about Public-Private Alliance Foundation being connected to BRA in the field of using, making, selling solar cookers, which, as one of my contacts recently said, when you can't afford propane and you can't find charcoal, you're really happy that the sun is shining. So
that's right.
I'd like your reactions, publicly and perhaps privately.
Yeah, definitely. We've been talking about this many times in the past, and I think BRA has reached a level right now because we're going to celebrate our 25th anniversary next year, and it's going to be a compilation of everything we've done to date, and we are proud of everything that we've been doing in the Dominican Republic and Haiti and Peru. We will be very happy to. I'll be very happy to talk to you again, David, about how we can do this work at the border, because the border is very important. It's not difficult to get into the communities because we can go through the Dominican Republic and get there. The problem would be for me, Port-au-Prince, all those places close to Port-au-Prince. To me, it's a chaos, and I don't think we have the resources, the connections in Haiti to get things done in those areas of the country. But I think at the border, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about them.
We were working in the Dominican Republic on agricultural products and microfinance years ago. I think that's how we first got to know each other. We were active, especially in Monte Plata province.
Exactly.
There. It could be that in the Dominican Republic, connected to your public health clinics, that our organization and Rotary Club, I don't want to promote one organization. I think maybe the Rotary Club of New York could be a connection for further work in the clinics and the other locations that BRA has already established a strong presence.
Definitely, and today I was talking to one of our staff in Santo Domingo. BRA right now has reached a different level of partnership and working in the Dominican Republic. For example, for the past since 2005, BRA has partnered with USAID in HIV prevention, education, and treatment. And this year, for the past 3 years, we have worked with the same group of NGOs, FHI 360 and USAID and the Dominican Ministry of Health. And BRA's workmanship has reached a standard that is so high. Now USAID has asked us to share our best practice with other local groups to raise their capacity to be able to manage their grants in the Dominican Republic. So for us, it's a very good thing to know after 24 years, we have become now an NGO that the government will tap into to help others do their work. So this is good for us.
Thank you, Ulrick. Francis Limbe, good afternoon. Francis? Hi, John. Yeah, we can hear you now, Francis. Go ahead.
I like the energy that you have. This is show that you really you like what you're doing. Your organization actually is very similar to my organization, our organization also. My organization is called BC Global. We're operating in Africa, especially in Southern Sudan. And I just like to ask you about the structure and the way how you work with the grassroots, the way how you're getting the feedback from the grassroots in connection to your donors. So you say everyone know Haiti has a lot of social challenges, especially in terms of security and and the community, the challenges that facing the community. How do you rate your relationship of the organizations with the local community, the grassroots? Is the relationship actually as well? Are you satisfied with the relationship? Are you getting the good feedback from the community? And also in terms of the government, how is the government work with you, especially in the healthcare? Because if you're doing the healthcare, you need to have at least a good connection with the Ministry of Health. How are you rating? How are you giving a thumb up for that kind of relationship? You know, and also with a guarantee, how do they, with the donors, how do they get the accurate feedback from your local community, seeing you are here in the United States? How do you feedback your donors? Thank you.
Sure. In Haiti and the Dominican Republic, our organization signed partnership agreements with the Ministry of Health, the State Sugar Council, etc. It is important for us because they are the ones who will guide us on how to do our work in their country. We don't want to have our work done separate from the national plan. We want it to be part of it. We are assisting the government in getting the work done in places where they cannot go. In terms of getting feedback, we rely a lot on one group of people called the community health promoters. That group for us has always been the key for being able to do not only education, prevention, but also to keep an eye on the community, on their behavior. What we've taught them to do, the way they practice water, sanitation, and hygiene, COVID-19, HIV prevention. After you teach them this, you have to follow up with them. If you do not give them that kind of following, they are going to forget about what you've taught them, and the whole thing is done. So we rely on our health promoters. Right now, currently, we have 475 community health promoters working with us on a day-to-day basis. They come from the community. They are members of the community where we serve. So they know each person. They are the ones who give us feedback. They report to us. And then we write those feedback in our report and give back to our donors. So that's how we stay in touch. That's how we give to our donors an idea of what's going on the ground. After receiving their money, we report to them quarterly, biannually, or annually. But our community health promoters are the ones, and our field staff, that go into each community and talk to the people, follow through on what they're supposed to do, and then report back to us at our office.
Thank you. John German. John, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Well, David Stillman and Ulrick Gaillard, you may remember when we sat in Paul Caruso's apartment near the UN and talked about how Haiti could be helped. And one moment there, the senior Haitian official who was meeting with us, when we said, well, Haiti has all this sunshine. Why isn't there more going on with solar power? And he just laughed, because he was giving testament to the impossibility of getting anything done. Fast forward to backward, actually, to when a friend of mine had the largest clothing manufacturer and the largest company in Haiti, the largest employer in Haiti, something like 4,500 people. And the Bush administration came out with some new regulation that said you can't export from Haiti to the United States from that these goods. And he called up one of his friends in Haiti and said, "That's it, we're out of business." So there was even a U.S. role in causing unemployment in Haiti, and he's never been back. Recent contact with him, he said he's trying to figure out what to do to support Haiti, which gets me to the last question, which is, here we are in Rotary. What should we do? I don't know if there's anything we can do as Rotary, but what should we do as individuals who are conscientiously trying to make the world better? we need your advice, and we'd be happy to, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you have us do? Thank you.
Oh, wow. Me, if I were to say anything about Haiti right now, it has to be one, ensure that there's no more political instability that is visible to create a fear in the minds of foreign investors. That's the first thing Haiti needs to do. We have to look at things macro for Haiti right now, because Haiti has gone through all those turmoils, and I don't think small project will help solve the problem. It probably will solve the problem for a family for a year, and then they're going to go back to square one, to their own reality. And I think everybody would say the same thing. And I think one of you said it today. We have to look at the how we can create an environment for politicians in Haiti, for the country to have a stable governmental environment, political environment that is so stable that foreign investors feel that their money is not going to be at stake. And I think that's where Haiti has to be first before anything can happen. There's room for anybody to do work in Haiti. For example, the Rotary can start with one of their favorite projects and to go into a small village and help a family fight waterborne infections, fight the high fever among children. Something like this will help, because any help is help. But I think with the way the world is moving so fast, Haiti is being left behind. And I think Haiti has a lot to offer. Haiti as a nation, strategically, geopolitically, has a lot to offer. And Haiti has the same things most countries in the Caribbean have: the beaches, the right climate, and so forth. One thing that is holding it back, as all the reports have said, is the political instability. And I think if the Haitian folks and the political actors put their heads together and make sure that stability, that instability becomes stable, then I think it's a right thing to do for the country.
Ulrick, you're reminding me of an anecdote. Back in 2010, with the major earthquake, a personal friend of mine and surgeon who is head of the trauma for a hospital for special surgery here in New York took it upon himself. He recruited 24 surgeons and medical staff, and they chartered a plane and paid for it themselves. They went down to Port-au-Prince, and he said it got so bad they were working upwards of 50 hours straight in the operating room, and they were unable to leave the hospital because there were literally thousands of people online outside the hospital who threatened physical harm to anyone who left the hospital because they had loved ones. And he said, we physically, emotionally and physically were not able to service. We hadn't slept for 2 days. Sure. And we ran out of medical supplies. And this friend of mine personally went to see the vice president of the government in Haiti, in Port-au-Prince, and said, listen, we have no medical supplies. You've got 2 medical transport ships in the harbor full of everything we need. We need those medical supplies now. And he said, the vice president looked at him and smiled, and he said, doctor, this is Sunday. Nobody works on Sunday. And he said, at that point, he simply took his entire staff. They got on the plane and came home. He says, I couldn't endanger their lives anymore. Sure. And that's the kind of frustration. It's no wonder that there are gangs, literally. And one cannot help but think, if the elite felt threatened by these gangs, wouldn't the Haitian army just simply come in and have martial law and run the streets? And when you see gangs kidnapping people, killing people, stealing, you have to say to yourself, there has to be an element in that country that's giving this the blessing to do this.
There are thousands of questions out there as to why this new situation is happening in Haiti with the gang activities. And people are wondering, where does it come from? For what purpose? What's the long-term goal? What's the short-term goal? And it's a mystery. And I'm sure eventually people will know why this situation is there and do something about it, because it's not a good thing for the country. It is not bringing anything positive for the stability of the country economically and politically. And as I've always said, you know, the Haitians are traumatized economically and politically by what's going on to the country for decades since the Duvalier regime. Now they do not know what to do. I mean, folks are saying, you know, Ulrick, we simply do not know what to do. We want others to tell us, okay, how to get out of this problem, but they don't want anything cosmetic. They want something real. And I think the Haitian people are capable, they are ready to change the whole landscape of the country, except to give them real support. I mean, you know, there are school of thoughts out there saying that once the US stop supporting, you know, those leaders who are coming with no long-term plans for the country, those things will change. I mean, you know, there are many things being said out there, but I think, you know, the world has to look at Haiti and say, you know what, let's be a partner with you. You have a problem on how to manage your police force, we'll help you. You have a problem on managing funds, we'll help you. You have a problem of doing audit, we'll help you. You have a problem maintaining stability politically, we'll help you. And then once we create that stability for the place, then we can start inviting foreign investors to come in. And as well as local investors too. I mean, there are Haitians who are investing in Haiti, but that kind of money is not enough to see a serious change, a lasting change in the country. I mean, we need more.
Can you address the success you've had with these micro loans to women? Is that similar to what was done in Bangladesh? I don't know if you're familiar with Bangladesh, no. But can you, you know, how successful have those loans been?
It is successful on many levels. No, the first one basically is in the DR, especially in the rural areas. You know, women suffer a lot of household violence from their partners, and many reasons. The most important reason for this is the fact that the women are not financially stable and independent. And by providing them with this kind of financial support, they are able to get into small businesses in the community and invest the money in the community. And at the same time, ensure that they are not abused as the way they used to be by their household partners. Because once they can provide to the household, then the whole game changes. And we have seen that happening in the Bateys, and it's a very good thing. It's concrete, it's real. And the second part basically is when you have 475 women to become entrepreneurs in just a year, and they're investing their little money in the community to inject cash and capital in their rural economy, it's a beautiful thing. Now they don't have to wait for the central government to inject money here to start some project. They said, no, we can do it ourselves. And so for us, it's one of the best things we've done since we started this organization in 1997. We thought healthcare was the greatest thing. But when we start doing this work with the women, it's a beautiful thing really to see how the whole landscape has changed, how positive they feel about themselves, how the young girls, you know, they are, you know, with their mother, they're seeing them as role models instead of to see the father who's coming in and beat up on the women on the spouse every single day. They don't see this anymore. So for us, it's a positive thing.
How much do these loans average, and how do the women ever manage to pay back pay them back?
That's a very good point. Like for example, in the DR, I remember when we first started to give those loans in 2018 at $200 per person, no? And we told them you have a whole year to pay off the loan. Now, we had a return of 98.9% of all of them, as compared to the normal middle class, that's not even 50%. Mm-hmm. So therefore, we've taught them, not because they're from the rural area, not because they're from the Bateys, they are not folks who understand, you know, the quid pro quo. Okay, you give me this money, I can pay you back. And we show them, no, they are paying back. They are paying back the money that we loaned them in January. And by December, almost everybody give their money back. So that's another thing it does for the society, because some have viewed the rural women as, you know, not capable of managing a loan or investing in the community. But with our program, we show them differently. It can happen.
So perhaps, Ulrick, this is something Rotary can look into. including Rotary International, as a source of financing these loans to women around the world.
And because also, what one more beautiful thing about this program is, unlike other programs, we had to rely on donors giving us money over and over again. With this program, one-shot deal, and that's it. The program it runs by itself. For example, if we give $20,000 of loans to the women, all right, it's not a gift. They return that money back, and with that money, we either reinvest in the community or give other loans to other women to expand the program into other the communities. So therefore, the money is never lost. I think it's a very good way for Rotary to look into supporting a project, because it will become self-sufficient.
I think a lot of Americans either don't know, or if they did, have forgotten that this was one of the things American workers did in the late 19th century, early 20th century, where unions founded union banks and municipal unions to fund workers, to buy homes, to finance, educate. The workers themselves were financing themselves.
That's right.
Where they may not have been able to get a commercial loan from a commercial bank,
exactly,
but they could go to a municipal credit union and perhaps get it from them.
Exactly. For example, we as an organization, we have created a cooperative. Through that cooperative, we give them the loan at only 2%. It's very symbolic, and so for them, they don't feel squeezed that oh my God, this interest is so high, because we don't want them to feel that we are those institutions out there that are loan shocking these women. We said, okay, we're gonna give you the $200 at 2% only, and almost all of them pay at the end of the year. So this is very good, and I think, as you said, I think that would be a great thing for the Rotary to look into.
All right, thank you, John German. This is perhaps something we can talk about in the future. So, Andreas, I think we have run out of time, Andreas.
Yes. Thank you, Ulrich. If we have 1 minute, I did want to just show the promotional clip that Batey has. I do like it a lot, and I think it's something that we should see. So just 1 second. I think you might be able to see it. Are you able to see my screen or not yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see the screen yet, Andreas. Andreas, don't see the screen yet. Malika, I see you had a question as well. All right, now maybe we see the screen now.
Except that there's no sound.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Andreas. Before we go, Malika, you have a quick question before we go? Malika, unmute yourself, please.
Congratulations on a very, very good and informative presentation. The credit to rural women that President Gaillard was referring to was a very successful around the world, and the person, the economist who came up with it, got the Nobel Peace Prize. So it is worth looking into, and when you empower the woman, you know that the family will be well taken care of. My last observation is that everything starts with education. Educate people in kindergarten or wherever, the first grade. You have to teach them citizenship. You have to teach them moral. Well, in French they call it morale. It's really how to conduct yourself. I mean, poverty is breeding ground for banditry, for all kinds of bad things, for drug use, and for violence against a brother, a sister, a wife, etc. So education and empower women. That's the key to coming out of this underdevelopment. Sorry to say that. I know that colonialism has something to do with it. I know one country that paid with 1.5 million of its children got killed in their revolution to gain independence. You had to pay money. Some countries paid with their blood, and it was a very, very high price, leaving behind only old people and children. So, but again, I heard Obama say once when he was in Africa, don't blame colonialism all the time. That's past. You have to look forward and find solutions. I love David's technology, which uses solar power. And in this context of climate change, I think it's a very good solution. Of course, women have to change their recipes because it takes 4 hours to cook a dish. But you have to, comply with what the environment has to offer without destroying it. So that was, and again, thank you very much, Ulrick. This is kind of, it's very enlightening. And I know that our Rotarians are very sensitive to natural disasters. Nobody remains insensitive in front of an earthquake, but then they have to find the right environment to invest.
Definitely.
Thank you, Ulrick.
Education takes a lot of time. It doesn't lend itself to quick results, but it's a sure investment.
Definitely.
Thank you, Malika. Thank you, Ulrick, for reminding us that this is a never-ending process. And yeah, I guess independence, self-assurance, the ability of the individual to provide for himself, herself, that's the secret to success. And so kudos for your organization for helping bring that about. We will keep in contact with you. Remind board members, we have a board meeting next week. Andreas, you want to close us out?
No, there's not much else to add, President Gaillard. We have a board meeting next week, and we also have our distinguished district governor address our club next Thursday. Will be an evening meeting. And so please take the opportunity to join us then. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.